All right, welcome everybody. This is What's Up for You. It's September 10th, 2024. And thank you for being patient with us this morning. So we'll get these things all organized as we move forward. Before we start with the questions, what I'd really like to do is just kind of tap into this energetic field and offer whatever information might feel like it's important to offer at this point, and then we'll just jump in and get started. So give me just a second here. And if you guys are brand new to this, welcome, welcome, welcome. It's like this community's kind of started to grow exponentially since Alex's interview. So we're really excited to have you here. And yeah, we don't bite, so let's have fun. Okay. All right. Let me just check in here. Okay. So again, this is the theme of this time right now. It's this energy right now is so transformative that, you can wake up one day and things are kind of going down a particular road and maybe they're the same old, same old. And by that evening, things can shift and things can change. And the what's altering in between is not so much the energy that's coming in, because the energy that's coming in is just what's coming in. What's altering in between is our attachments to the way things have been in the past. So the moment that we kind of really release those attachments, the moment we start asking questions instead of making statements about our lives or about our relationships or our connections to our children or whatever that is, in that moment that we say, what if, or ask a question in a different way, that's the exact moment that the morning and the evening look completely different. Yep. And the thing that we have really working for us right now is this huge influx of energy that is extremely, it's extremely powerful. It's extremely transformative. Yep. So let's use that energy to our benefit, and not hang on so tightly to what has been. Yeah. Yeah. Okay. So Sharon, where do you want to go today?
All right, let's start with this question.
Okay.
Logan, 8 years, hands over ears, inside and out. Won't wear earmuffs, headphones, removes and throws them, slams head on table floor and yells out often. Peg, tube feeding, makes sounds, not words. Walks independently a little bit, weaker on the right side. What is causing need to cover ears, bang head? Same thing for both. Is it coming from inside or outside of you? Inside pain, mental, emotional, neurological, and trying to come into our dense reality, unable to communicate. Here, gut, vagus, outside anxiety, coherence of others around you, Wi-Fi, classmates. Just wondering what's going on.
Yeah. Okay. Okay. So first off, before I even check in with Logan, let's just kind of take a deep breath and relax here for a minute. Just settle into our bodies. Here we go. There we go. Okay. So what Logan shows me immediately is, I think it's not inside or outside in the way you might be thinking about it. What Logan shares immediately is that there are multiple information fields that come in. Yes, sound is a little bit too loud for him. And he also doesn't like the pressure of anything on his head because that adds to the intensity of the information, right? So he wants to be in charge of that of how much information is coming in and how much information isn't. On the one hand, when he covers his ears, he's creating a bit of a buffer between him and sound, the outside world, and sound, because it sounds really loud to him. I mean, I would almost be whispering to this kid all the time, especially when you're interacting with him. Your volume can go way down as well when you're having that conversation with him. The other side to know is that Logan picks up multidimensional information, so he's not just picking up sound in the physical environment, he's also picking up thoughts and ideas and maybe other support systems, maybe unseen supports. And so think about if all of that was talking to you at the same time, if you were privy to all of that information at the same time, it's like, oh, okay, stop. That's a lot. One of the things I would first let's dial this down just a little bit. Let's dial this energy down a little bit for Logan. And the other thing I want to say is, one, when you do speak to him yourself, you can speak to him, you can take the speech and the volume of the speech down to about like this, and that would be absolutely enough. And I would also say to him out loud that you recognize that he is picking up information from multiple sources, and you recognize how challenging that might be for him. And just say it like that, just a little bit of compassion for the fact that he's picking up things that most human beings aren't privy to. Yep. And so there's nothing wrong. He just has that capacity. But we do want to acknowledge that capacity for him so that we all recognize that it's challenging and that it's a gift. Yeah. And as you lower your voice when you're communicating with him, what you're going to notice is he's going to be more willing to share some of that gift with you and with others. Yeah. Yeah, I hope that's helpful.
Okay. I have a clue that the water issues of my son, for example, hearing the dishwasher or the cat sink or washing always hands, comes from Lemuria and Atlantis. But I have no idea why he hates hearing somebody eating and where this misophonia comes from. So he needs ear protectors at home and at restaurants all the time since about 2 years old.
It's interesting that the first two questions are about sound, and so let me just check in with him. Oh, let me see here. So again, let's go back to the time of Lemuria. There's again, every one of the kids has access to multiple dimensions and multiple realities. And therefore, it's never going to be just one thing that is playing out here. So in regards to the eating, you paired the sound of water and things like that to the time of Lemuria. Beautiful, accurate. And also at the time of Lemuria, we were also in light bodies. We didn't eat. And so not the way we might have absorbed light. We might have taken in prana. We might have consumed energy, but we didn't chomp, 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 eat, And so, pairing those two realities, I think that you've answered your question right there. That's why that sound is uncomfortable to him. Also, the other thing that he's just adding to the mix for your consideration is when he, especially when he, well, let me say it like this. Hold on a second. The frequency of water today is very different than the frequency of water at the time of Lemuria. You might say it was pristine at the time of Lemuria. Now, water is used kind of unceremoniously to make sure our dishes get washed. Water is not seen for the consciousness that it actually is, and for the profound consciousness that it actually is. So we don't treat water in this reality the way they did or we did at the time of Lemuria either. So I think he would very much like to, things like blessing his water, things like making sure that the water is seen as a consciousness. There's so much information out on YouTube and things like that about the consciousness of water now. I think he would very much like to know that that's being recognized. And as it's recognized and he knows he can, I'll say, quote unquote, do something about that. Yeah, you might very well find that he loses that edge when it comes to interacting with water. Yeah.
All right, next question. After the balance and integration session, I had a dream where I was stuck up on the precipice and unable to get down. But then I realized I could do it myself and gently floated down all the way to the ground. Later, I realized this might be part of expanding my field. Also, I'm experiencing what I think of as lots of timeline shifts, sometimes up and sometimes lower. How does it affect my girls or children in general? They seem neutral.
Until, as far as I can tell, they are neutral in regards to this. And it's like you within your own energy field are you're finding a new normal. I think in that particular balance and integration session, we talked about almost having a new foundation. And you're finding that through the full spectrum of your energy. When you're up, you can move down. When you're down, you can move up. Think about like a hummingbird and being able to move in multiple different directions. So you're finding, through those energy sessions, you're finding that capacity within yourself. As soon as that capacity is known and understood and played with within you, what you're going to notice is that your children automatically have access to that as well if they so choose it. I'm not a proponent of pushing anything or trying to make somebody else, especially our children, be where we want them to be or where we think they should be or where we are, because they're on their own unique journeys. But it is also true that once that template is set, once it's known, then you have automatically made it available to your lineage. Yeah. Is that helpful? Oops. I had a dream after that session too, that I was climbing a wall and I was climbing straight up the wall. It's like, and ended up kind of like in the corner, like if I had hit a ceiling, and remembered like kind of going, okay, do I go up? Do I go down? Do I go left? Do I go right? And it was like, no, just break the ceiling, like go through the ceiling. But that wasn't a preconceived idea of something that could be done until the dream happened. And then it was like, just go through the ceiling. So.
My son will be turning 4 next month. He recently started initiating words and just now learning to talk. Over the past few months, I've noticed that the skin on his fingertips has been peeling off. More recently, the skin on his toes has started peeling as well. It's like layers of skin are coming off. His pediatrician doesn't seem concerned, but I was hoping you could offer some insight into what might be going on. The peeling seems to be better at times, but then worsens again. Possibly new skin forms. I can tell it's bothering my child. I've also started wondering if this might be related to him taking long baths as he refuses to take showers and I wash him in the bathtub. Any thoughts would be grateful.
Yeah, so yeah, I mean, I think it does look related to being in the bath. It also does look like, I don't know if you already put something like Epsom salts or baking soda or something like that in the bath water. If he's really sensitive and doesn't like anything in his water, doesn't like things grainy, or doesn't like, you can use the baking soda. Just, you could literally put like a quarter of a teaspoon, he'd still get the benefit from it. But go ahead and you could add that to the water. And the reason I'm saying that is because the first thing he said to me is, yes, he's taking, let's back up. He's taking long baths as a means of soaking out something that's on the inside that he's trying to get on the outside. The fingertips are peeling as a means of letting that energy out, as are the toes. It's like, probably even, he might even be having some, I don't know whether it's actually peeling or movement on his crown, around his tailbone as well. But the very first thing he said to me was parasites. So if he's experiencing parasites, that might just be his way of trying to soak them out. And so if we're going to soak them out anyway, maybe a little bit of Epsom salts, a little bit of baking soda, just to help move out whatever toxicity first wants to move out from his body. And then you might also want to address any parasites that might be there as well. Typically, when this shows up, well, let me just ask him. Hold on a second. Yeah, really gentle, 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 gentle. Something like a homeopathic remedy that supports the release of parasites, and even a homeopathic remedy where you start at half a dose of whatever they're recommending and then work your way up. Because what we don't want to have is, we don't want to have this kind of die-off reaction. Every one of you who have kids has gone down a certain protocol only to have that be just about as traumatic as whatever you were trying to get away from. So let's go really gently with that. But that was the first thing that he said, and maybe the reason why he wants to soak in the bath before he, more so than a shower. The other thing too is, we're talking about the consciousness of water here. Might be a little bit out of the comfort zone, but can we ask the water to help? It's a consciousness. Can we ask the water to start to dissipate whatever toxins need to be dissipated? Yeah, so that we can move that through. Yeah. One of the things that I really want to get across as we continue these conversations together is that the kids' perception of reality is very different than ours. They interact with levels of consciousness that most of us never even consider interacting with. And it's why it can be so flipping frustrating to somebody who functions in a more neurotypical way to interact with the kids. Because unless we're asking them, or unless we are curious about what they're experiencing and asking ourselves questions that we don't really know the answer to, we kind of stay locked in the, well, this is what it is. Whether it's he takes baths often, or he puts his hands over his ears, or whatever it is. Again, we want to have some love and compassion and understanding for ourselves, because we are not seeing their reality. We are projecting onto them the reality, the only reality that we know. And that's not bad. It's just that the more we open to, okay, what else is possible? It's like, what am I missing here? What can't I see because I'm function in a more neurotypical way and they function in a more expansive way? The more that we ask those kinds of questions, I promise you, they'll start finding ways of getting you those answers. Yeah. Yeah. Okay.
Right. I have been feeling a strong call to participate in the building of the new earth in a new way. I teach mindfulness, but feel it's going to be a step further, either a new way of applying it or a complete new area. I've been asking my guides and other channelers for a year, but I'm not getting any clear guidance. Can you share what you see for me regarding what is my soul mission, and also why I'm not getting access to talk to my guides myself after trying so many techniques and activations? Thank you.
One, I honestly, I would never tell anybody what their soul mission is. And I wouldn't tell anybody what their soul mission is, because whatever I come up with is going to be what, my perception of it. And to me, our soul missions or our soul directives, our source connection, that's between ourselves and our source connection. And what I will say here is that I have a sense that the reason that that information isn't coming quite yet directly to you, as it will when the time is right, I have a feeling that the reason that that information isn't coming directly to you is because you are being asked to be the new earth, not create it. Yeah. And so what does that mean? It means that, again, back to what I was just saying, we go back to asking questions that we might not have asked before. It's like, not so much how do I create the new earth or where do I participate in that, but where am I already the new earth? Where do I already hold that capacity? Where am I able to embody that for myself? What do I know about that? The more you tap into that field, the more you will be the new earth. And the more you are the new earth, the more all kinds of potentials and possibilities, offerings, invitations will come to you. Yeah. In the past, we've all been led to believe that we have to make something happen. Honestly, the new earth is happening, period. It's like, it's a lot bigger than we are. So we're playing our roles in that. But it's also happened. It's also true that it's happening because we have held that information in our totality for eons of time. And as we've held that in our totality for eons of time, that information is starting to bubble to the surface. We're starting to speak now from that space. And the more we do, the more we attract information to, the more we attract those invitations, you might say, or like experiences. Yeah. So you are going to get that information. I'll tell you that right now. It is going to come directly to you, and it might come to you later today because the only thing that's going to happen is you're going to turn that attention inward and ask where you already are that, instead of looking outward and wondering if there's somebody out there that can tell you who you are in truth, because you already know. You already know. Yeah.
My son Philip who is 16 years old, has recently moved a bit far away because he is in a place to get more help, and therefore I do not see him more than once a week right now. My son and I have always had a telepathic communication. Since he lost his language more than at the age of 14, I've become more aware of it. I do communicate with him that way every day. Lately, he's been showing up in my dreams at night where we spend time together. Him, his brother, and I. What is your thoughts about telepathy, and do you think my son receives my messages? Thank you.
I don't know, honestly, I don't know any other way but telepathy. I mean, that's been my personal experience for the last 30 years. And having said that, I would also suggest that he would not be showing up in your dreams. He would not be exchanging information with you unless he was getting your messages. I think one of the other things to be aware of is that all of these kids are telepathic. Definitely the kids diagnosed on the spectrum are all telepathic. Definitely all the new kids coming in now, whether they have a diagnosis or not, it's just part of our evolutionary capacity. And some of us, like yourself, may have been maybe more leaning towards a neurotypical kind of awareness. And telepathy broke through anyway. Telepathy is there for you as it is for others as well. And so, yes, absolutely use it. Yes, he's absolutely getting the information from you. And we can check and double check that if we want. I mean, my old the older version of Suzy was a pediatric speech language pathologist, big into data and statistics and things like that. So I always like a little bit of confirmation here and there. But you can also literally just say to any child that you're telepathic with, this is what I received. This is how you showed up. Is that accurate? Am I right on? And even if that child that you're interacting with is completely nonverbal and is not going to answer you, yes, mom, you got that right. You as the mother, or even you as a professional that might be working with this population, the minute you get it, because they grin from ear to ear, their eyes light up, oh my gosh, you got it. You got the message. And they'll let you know that it was accurate even. So yes, he's definitely, he definitely hears you. He definitely feels you. So when you're telepathically communicating with him, it's also okay to share that you miss him, that you wish he was closer, that you wish that you had that connection, and that you also understand that he needs his own autonomy right now. He needs his own space right now, and that's serving him well. Yeah, serving him really well right now. Yeah, just looking. Nice. I mean, it's a nice bond, and it's not over simply because you're separated in space and time. Yeah, he's quite capable of interacting with you beyond time and space. So, yeah. All right. Thank you for that question.
My 7-year-old daughter is non-speaking with some words. She is learning to spell to communicate. I'm wondering if it is helping her. She also has a very big appetite. It makes me wonder if she is using food in a dysfunctional way or just has a sensory issue. Would like a sense of her internal state and what we can do. Please send. Oh, and that's it.
Okay. Let me see here. Okay. Let me is. I just need some first name on this one for some reason. Do we have a first name for her, the daughter? Her name is
Tally.
okay. All right, let me get. She, okay, I got it. Okay, so Tally said, I wanted you to know who I was. It's like she didn't want to respond to the question without almost, it was cute. It was almost like a personal introduction, so very sweet. And and I appreciate those very often when somebody makes a personal connection like that. They might want to come back later for other conversations, which of course she's welcome to do if she'd like. So let's go back to, okay, say the question again, Sharon. She's taken me in a bunch of different directions.
Just a second. Okay, right here. My 7-year-old daughter is non-speaking with some words. She is learning to spell to communicate. I am wondering if it is helping her. She also has a very big appetite and makes me wonder if she is using food in a dysfunctional way or just has a sensory issue. Would like to sense a sense of her internal state and what we can do.
Okay, thank you. Sorry about that. She got me on a different tangent and I forgot the question. So yeah, so spell to communicate definitely helping. Tally's definitely got a lot to share and will. It might take her a little bit of time to start to flow in that communication, and that's not because that's for no other reason other than she is organizing a lot of information. When it does start flowing, it's kind of like the child that we've been waiting to hear their first word, and then they say their first word and they don't stop talking after that. It's the same way with her spelling to communicate. So she's organizing tons of information. And as she's organizing tons of information, that requires energy. Yep, it requires energy for her to, and that's where you're getting the food part. It's almost like she's, hold on a second, her field is, she's got a lot going on. I just need to amp mine up just a little bit. So I'm going to go to light language just for a second, and then I'll have more clarity. Okay, Tali Santa de Kyoko Kikimen Jin Jin Joy Santa de Yokame. Ekyoko Kikimen Jin Jin Joy Sam. Okay, take it for what it's worth. She is taking in food and is using that as what she understands is energy. And for two reasons. One, it's helping to create a little bit of density in her energetic field to consume food and to transmute that into energy. And it takes an awful lot of energy for her to takes an awful lot of energy for her to kind of consolidate all of that information that she's trying to consolidate so that she can move that through the method of spell to communicate. Like I say, she's got lots to say. There's multiple layers and multiple dimensions of that. And so one, she needs some grounding, which she's doing through the food. And two, she also needs some energy because it takes that to process what she's trying to process. So I always lean on the side of what's the capacity, what's the capacity that she has? Where do we need to go to see that capacity? Because again, if we're just looking at it from the outside, from a more neurotypical perspective, we're like, wow, she's eating a lot, and that might be too much. And I completely understand from that vantage point that might be perceived as a quote unquote problem. And if we ourselves have had any issues with food or with our relationship to it, that might be a fear that we hold within ourselves. What I just want to point out here is, again, there can be our neurotypical lens that sees the child and what they're doing and the projection that we might put on that. And there's also the bigger picture lens, or the multidimensional, the unified field lens that the kids are more coming from. So yeah, so that's hers anyway. I hope that's helpful. She's doing exactly what she needs to do in order to have the grounding and the energy to bring through what she's trying to bring through. Yeah. All right. I think honestly, if we leave this conversation today with only one message, the message really is that overall, what we think something is and what it is can be very different. And the more we play with, I wonder what it is. I wonder, and I know that some of the things that I'm saying can feel or sound like they're pretty far out there. But the truth is that the more we interact with it from that perspective, the more we're interacting with them from their worlds. Yeah. And as far as I can tell, as long as I've been doing this work with the kids, they have been layering in, as souls, they have been layering in a very high frequency of information. And as far as I can tell, that high frequency information is, and the capacities that go with it, are reflective of where we are going as a human race. We are all evolving into that space ourselves. And so the more curious we can be about that vantage point, the more open we can be, the more questions we can ask, the more likely it is that we start tapping into where they hang out, and evolve our own skills in the process. Yeah. So, yeah. Are you pulling in more questions, Sharon? Okay, I just wanted to make sure. Okay, so while we're doing that, then let's just open our own fields here. Let's just do a little bit of energetic stretching, you might say. We're just, again, if we just move right into our own heart space. And for most human beings, our heart space is fairly restricted or constricted. I mean, from the human perspective, we've all been through a lot. It's been lifetimes of heavy work, and especially if you're a soul that comes here to help humanity evolve. It's heavy lifting, you might say, especially in previous lifetimes and incarnations, this one as well. So that heart space is restricted or constricted in a particular way just because we've lived a life. But like just right here, right now, for this time that we've gathered, let's see if we can just expand that heart space. I mean, if it was like a sphere or a bubble, just get an idea of what the size of it was. Let's just breathe into it. We're literally stretching it out. It's like just blowing into a balloon. We're expanding that field. And when we expand that field, sometimes it can feel a little bit uncomfortable. Sometimes it can feel there can be more questions than there are answers. But that's actually a good sign, not a negative. Yeah, we're just expanding. Here we go. There we go. Oh, there we go. Somebody just, okay. Sometimes that energy will literally just pop. Yeah. And so this is really a good exercise, especially when it comes to connecting with the kids. You know, just where is my heart? Where is that heart field? And can I consciously choose to expand it? And breath is a great way to expand it. You know, we're just following our breath and watching that field get bigger and bigger. And each time we do, we're expanding closer and closer, you might say, to the heart fields of the kids. We're just all looking for a coupler. We're all looking for a way to make that connection between our worlds and theirs. And doesn't it make sense that that world would be found right through the heart, especially for those of you who are parents? Yeah. Especially for those of you who are parents. I mean, what parent doesn't want to deeply connect with their child, no matter where they are? Yeah. And we'll go wherever they are in order to do it. Yeah. So, yeah. All right. We have a few more, Sharon.
Yes, my autistic son has been diagnosed with small intestinal bowel inflammation and autoimmune condition. We are starting the treatment from next week. How should we help him during this healing? Any words and wisdom?
Hold on a second. You know, again, there's something about this procedure, there's something about all of this that is helping him be more present in his body. It's almost like um, I've experienced this myself, and I've worked with a lot of other people over the years that have, you know, the makeup of their particular energetic field is such that they require a focus on the body to kind of almost help more fully merge that the essence of who they are with that human physical experience, right? And so I'm just planting that seed that this is, yes, this is about what it's about. It's, you know, it is about, um, it is about everything it's about, and that treatment is very helpful in this regard. But I also want it planted in the back of your mind that this is a means of him being more fully connected and integrated to his body. So again, instead of seeing it through the lens of this is a problem that needs to be fixed, and therefore we're going down this treatment road, you know, let's shift that ever so slightly to, wow, he really is finding a way to be more connected to his body, and this treatment plan is helping him do that. Yep. The results are completely different, you know, one perception versus the other. So you might say, you know, he's got a plan. You might think it was your plan or the doctor's plan, but he's got a plan. And the plan is to be more integrated, especially in his ability to digest who he is here. Who he is here. Yeah. And so it's, yeah, this is all going in the right direction. He just really wants you to know that, so that when the program gets a little bit challenging, that because all programs do at some point, it's like we hit that edge. If you know ahead of time that he's doing that to support his own connection to his body, his own embodiment, then then we see that as something to move through instead of, a wall that we're hitting or something that's going to stop that process. Yeah. Thank you.
All right, this question is, hello, my 19-year-old son has a great degree of social anxiety to the point of paranoia, of judgment attacked by a group, and he cannot make friends. He also has OCD. He has a feeling that something is wrong with him and it feels very bad. He thinks it is maybe due to childhood or even past life trauma. I've tried to help him feel into the feelings using the presence process type guidance, but he gets overwhelmed by the bad feeling and stops. What is the cause of this anxiety and how can release it? Thank you.
Okay, let me go back to something else first, and then I'll go to that question. So, in regards to the presence process, if you will do the presence process, you will facilitate some of this for him. I wouldn't have him do the presence process, but if you'll do the presence process around what this might be bringing up for you, you will find that some of this energy is mitigated. And the reason for that is that every child, I've watched this in my own life. I have 4 daughters. When I went through the presence process, I would become aware of something. I would feel through something that was maybe my children were bringing up for me, that were triggering for me. As I worked through that, as I breathed through that, that energy dissipated. And as that energy dissipated, that energy, that behavior very often would just stop within my kids. Yeah. I also watched it the other side, where my mother and I had a particular kind of relationship for eons of time. I do the presence process, dismissing the messenger, right? She's not the issue. It's like how I'm interacting with that is my gift to myself. And as I would, again, breathe through that and process that, that relationship changed pretty dramatically. So the reason it works that way is because we are both nurturing, we have nature and nurture, right? The DNA information that's imprinted into each one of our children is the same DNA information that had not yet been integrated when we conceived them. So anything that we haven't integrated ourselves prior to the conception of our children gets passed down to our children so that the next generation will help to process that. This is not a punishment. This is not something that we've done wrong or bad. This is the way humans evolve. And we evolve because each generation has a little bit more capacity to transmute something than the generation before them, right? If we look, if I said to you, let's look at our parents, and parents can often say things like, well, just deal with it, suck it up, address it. It's like my generation, I'm 63, my mother's generation in her 80s is like, oh my gosh, like, just get over it, and that, again, it's not, I'm not blaming or shaming them. I'm just saying that's where that's what they were imprinted with. The interesting thing about kids diagnosed on the spectrum or kids that are coming in and showing up differently is what they're doing is they're saying, you know what? I'm not going to be fully in my body to pick up this lineage pattern. They pick up the DNA information because but as far as the nurture part, so we usually imprint with nature, with the DNA, and then we go about parenting our kids, usually to one degree or another, the way we were parented. And therefore, the generations just go on. Kids on the spectrum kind of went, nope, not doing that. Not doing that. I'll take in the DNA information, but I will not take in the patterning information. I won't take in that. So I'm going to stay up and out. And the very fact that the kids stay up and out is the very thing that triggers us to high heaven. The very fact that they're not doing things quite the way we would want them to do it, or they're not showing up the way, we would like them to show up. That very thing is the thing that gives us the information that we can take to the presence process. Yeah. Take to the presence process. One of the very last chapters in the presence process is a story about a gentleman and his daughter. And the gentleman came to Michael Brown and said, would you work with my daughter with the presence process? And Michael Brown said, no, I won't, but I'll work with you. And he only worked with the father. And in the time that he worked with the father, the child had been put into a state hospital, was dealing with mental health issues. And by the time he took him through that 10-week process, the daughter was released, was doing great, started living with him. And a lot of the challenges that were there just weren't there. Am I saying that parents, always very careful here, parents usually hear this as I've caused this. Yep, like when I speak like this, people, and it's not true. It's in the evolution, in collective human evolution, the clearing of a lineage is what's important. And the reason it's important is because as we clear a lineage, then humanity can evolve. That lineage is cleared, that consciousness has gone up. And so we're not dealing with some of those same issues. We can also say that across most all family lineages, the challenges that are presented are basically the same. You might have addiction, you might have abuse, you might have, low self-worth, you might have, human beings only have so many, things that we play in. So every family that clears something within the lineage helps to alleviate humanity from that lineage as well. Yeah. And so to me, in your question, this piece about the presence process is number one, right? That's number one, because the anxiety, the stress, the overwhelm, one of my youngest daughters has pretty significant anxiety as well, has been on medication for it, has gone through different things around that. And what's important is what I keep saying to her is, honey, you have to understand that you watched me have my nervous system cave after I met Riley. You watched. And so again, was that my fault? No, it wasn't my fault, but it is what happened. And it is what she picked up. Yeah. And so that's why I'm just gonna, for all of this, I am gonna point you back to the presence process and to that 10-week process. It's not always an easy process to go through, especially not the first time. But when you recognize that you are clearing lineage, then you'll also recognize that it's going to be of benefit to you. It's going to be of benefit to the generations before you and after you as well. Really powerful, powerful tool, I have to say. Yeah. Yeah. When we have a vibrational resonance, either because of nature or nurture, around anxiety, stress. As we have that resonance in our body, we end up picking that resonance up from a broader field as well. That's another reason why it's great to nip this in the bud, so to speak. Because I know in my own experience, you know, as I had early trauma and that created anxiety, it also made me much more aware of humanity's anxiety. And so now I'm pulling out, now I have a resonance with it. Now I'm pulling that in from the collective as well. Yep. And all of that can be just overwhelming. So the beautiful thing is it's nobody's fault. It's nobody's fault. I mean, really hear that. And if it's nobody's fault, but it is our great opportunity and capacity to neutralize that energy, we can change what has been perceived as a challenge into a capacity, into an awareness of how powerful we actually are. Yeah. Yeah. You probably got more than you asked for in that response, and I apologize for it. But in some ways, but the other side of it is that honestly, and I think I'm saying this specifically to everybody here, but specifically to you, there's an empowerment that you hold that I don't think you know you hold. And the minute that you can demonstrate that to yourself, that is going to be something that's going to stay with you for the rest of your life. That's going to be something that is a really beautiful model for your child or children. Yeah. There is something really, I'll say it again, there's something really powerful here about going through the presence process yourself if you so choose. And it's empowering because as you go through it yourself and you watch some of those challenges dissipate for your son, you'll know your own power. And I don't think that there's anything better than that on the planet than to know that we have the power to make those shifts and those changes. So yeah, I think that that's where we'll leave that one. Let me just offer a couple closing remarks here because, you know, some of you are brand new to this community. Some of you have been here many times before, and I'm so appreciative of you showing up. And you probably also have already figured out by now and having this conversation that my clear intent is really to empower. I absolutely love being able to check in with the kids or anybody or any higher self and kind of provide that perspective. It's also true that in some cases we'll shift things in the moment. It's also true that in other moments, kind of like that last conversation, it's more important that somebody be empowered themselves than there be a remedy, you know, a quick fix or a remedy. So anyway, I appreciate all of you showing up, and I look forward to seeing you next month if you so choose. All right. All right. Lots of love, everybody. Bye.